Welcome back, everyone, with the 5:30 Eastern Time update on now Category 2 Hurricane Idalia. I want to start with the satellite image because it's probably going to be one of the more important things that we're going to talk about here. You can see that the much anticipated intensification that we've been talking about for several days is starting to happen, and some of it has already happened. I said it was Category 2, maximum sustained winds now up to 100 miles per hour, and this system has additional strengthening to go overnight and into the morning before making landfall. You can kind of see it here in the satellite image. An eye is starting to make an appearance here. It's starting to clear out. That is a sign that intensification is ongoing, and it was going to continue to strengthen during the overnight hours. If I switch over here to radar imagery, you can see the bands just sweeping across the Florida Panhandle already, or the Florida Peninsula already. And this is important because time is of the essence. There is no more time to monitor and hope for this system. If you're in this impacted area, and I'm going to break down the heaviest impacted areas here in a second, you won't have tomorrow. You will not have tomorrow to finalize your preparations. You have to do it this evening and tonight. You must rush preparation to completion in the next few hours because you can see the bands already working their way into the peninsula. So let's talk about the impacted areas, who's going to be impacted, and where the system is going to go. As I said, right now, 100 miles per hour, maximum sustained winds. That makes it a Category 2 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson scale, but it's going to continue to increase in strength, probably become a Category 3 in the overnight hours. Moving north now at 16 miles per hour, so it's picking up speed as it moves towards the Florida Big Bend area. So talked about it, intensification, most likely intensifying to a Category 3 overnight with maximum sustained winds of at least 115 miles per hour, maybe even a little stronger, before then moving inland somewhere in the Florida Big Bend area, But for all intensive purposes, where it makes landfall is not important because of this red area here. This red area here highlights where a hurricane warning is in effect. And what does a hurricane warning mean? That means that hurricane conditions are expected in that area. And so if you're in this red area here, Tampa northward, all the way through the Big Bend, and even inland into southeastern Georgia or southern Georgia, you have to be prepared for hurricane force wind speeds overspreading your community over the next 12 to 24 hours. It is, again, it is no longer time to monitor this situation. It is time to prepare for this situation, especially if you're in this red area. For the blue areas here, this is a tropical storm warning. So a tropical storm warning for the blue areas here, and look how far it extends north ahead of the system, even as it tracks through southern Georgia into eastern South Carolina, possibly clipping North Carolina with those winds. And you can see now tropical storm watches have been issued for the eastern portions of North Carolina and the Outer Banks. So anywhere in this colored area, you got to be not only paying close attention, but preparing for these very difficult and damaging wind speeds. Now, let's switch over to the storm surge, because storm surge will be the biggest impact in Florida. And you can see here, if I zoom in here, we anticipate now the strongest and most impactful storm surge of 10 to 15 feet in the Florida Big Bend, including the small community of Cedar Key. So if you're watching us from Cedar Key, you got to get out of there. Those conditions are not at all survivable. So you got to get out of there. And even look, we can have a surge even all the way down here in Tampa, 4 to 6 feet possible, even in Tampa, even with the system passing well to the west. So let me make that point. Even if the system passes well to the west, we're going to have significant flooding in and around the Tampa Bay area, and you can see some of these other areas, basically all the way around St. Marks, Apalachicola, impactful storm surge. So another place where if you've been ordered to evacuate, it is imperative that you follow those instructions immediately. We're really starting to run out of time with this one. So again, no longer watching. We're absolutely in the action phase. I want to start with the rainfall too. So if we zoom back out here, and this is the flood risk. So this is the chance of rainfall-induced flooding. So the heavy rains that come with these systems flooding look at this large area of risk that extends from the Tallahassee area northward through Georgia. So this is some of these areas here. This is Augusta, Columbia. I would say that corridor there of I-20 is going to be an especially hard-hit area for heavy rains, then sweeping into southern North Carolina, impacting Jacksonville and Wilmington. So if you're watching us from anywhere in this red area, you got to be prepared for these heavy rains and potential flooding. And I'm going to end here with the rainfall amount so you can see how much rainfall we're going to get. I talked about it here. This little band here along I-20 from Augusta to Columbia is probably going to be a really hard hit area in terms of rainfall. So we've got all hazards in play. We've got the heavy wind down here in Florida and southern Georgia. We've got the storm surge in the Big Bend, and then this large swath of rainfall extending over several states in the southeastern United States. This one is really going to be complicated. You really have to stay tuned, follow the latest information. We continuously update this information on hurricanes.gov, and we'll be back tomorrow with more live streamed updates.